I want to open it up to questions from the community, and we've seen a lot in the chat, but I'd like someone who has a burning question you'd like to ask Erin and Bob and get an active discussion around a specific topic. So, Peter?
Thank you, Stuart. Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the conversation. Bob and Erin, you talked about drinking water, municipal drinking water, and bottled water as the two end members, but an intermediate is point of use treatment systems at the dwelling, et cetera. And I guess I just sort of ask for kind of what's your thought right now about that as either an intermediate solution or as a way to think about re-engineering the 21st century water systems. You look at other countries like China, where they don't try to purvey compliant drinking water in the pipe. The water comes to the apartment building or the house, and it actually has under the sink RO. So the final protection barrier is actually at the dwelling. So I'm just sort of curious what your thoughts are on that.
We're definitely seeing more of that. There's a congressman, I should remember the name, down in Houston, that's looking at a whole program about that, having at the tap in-home reverse osmosis systems, which I think is interesting.
Peter, once again, it's an educational process. And the reason that I say that is because the application of the treatment technique that's provided, you need to understand, A, what you're treating, and B, when you're using reverse osmosis, where is that waste stream going?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, because back to what I was saying, if you're on a well and you're filtering out PFAS, all you're doing is
going somewhere, right? It's going to go back where into your French drain, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going in concentrated because you've actually taken all the water. You've just left concentrated contaminant. One of the biggest things that I've always been frustrated with the point of use or whole house filtration type systems without that education process in there. People actually take regulatory compliant water with levels, and I know this is going to freak people out, with radium and uranium at less than the maximum contaminant level, concentrate it on water softener resin, and then backwash. They take 15 picocuries per liter of uranium, make it 150,000 picocuries per uranium. I put Geiger counters on water softeners and have them peg out. Okay.
Wow.
Then they take that uranium that's been concentrated, backwash it into their septic systems. Where's the greenest spot of grass in your front yard?
Well, so Bob, you make the logical point that we talk a lot about water, but we're talking about a cycle, not just of water, but we've got to close the cycle on the other stuff. We've got to close the cycle on the salts. We've got to close the cycle on some of these chemicals.
Absolutely.
Chemicals themselves have great utility and have provided great benefit to people, but we haven't closed the cycle. And we end up disgorging them back into our environment and ultimately back into ourselves.
And the good news is it's actually pretty simple, and we've had the technology since about 1928.
Yeah.
Well, the consumer is definitely getting more savvy on that about RO. And Bob and I talk about that in these community meetings because they want to ask, what filtration should we use? And we're not going to recommend anyone because, again, you have to know what's in your water. You got to know what the concentrations are in your water. And they're starting to ask these questions, and they start to notice with the reverse osmosis. They will ask what we do with, when it sheds and you have all that secondary waste, which, Bob, you just mentioned a company that takes it away. Well, we were talking about this the other day.
Well, there's a number of companies that actually, rather than have the ion exchange or the granular activated carbon or even the RO, if you do everything in front of the RO, then the RO is great. You're going to take the PFAS out before you reverse osmose it. You're going to take out the nitrate before you reverse osmose it. And traditionally, they've had these where they basically put them in and then they backwash them. I mean, I guarantee there are people on this today who haven't changed the carbon filter behind your refrigerator since you put your refrigerator in. It is a bioreactor right now full of garbage you don't even want to know. Okay, so people do that, and then the consumer doesn't know what to go in and fix. And so that's why I'm always suspicious of point of use, point of entry. Without education, they can be very dangerous.
Well, we're not here to sell any products.
Right.
Yeah, no. But people are getting more savvy about that, and they are looking at RO, they are looking at home systems. In Flint, Michigan, contamination was so high, it didn't matter what you used. You'd have to change that filter out every 4 minutes. It was ridiculous. But they're starting to look at the filtration, asking more questions. So I am seeing in the consumer sector and all these people that this is becoming a big conversation. It's becoming a political conversation, and states requiring it, building requirements, all of that's waking up, and people are actively getting involved more than not.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Bob?
We'll share with you at another time, and if you ask us about either your water system, we'll give you feedback about your water purification system and let you know what we know about that. And we'll share with you some other ideas about what you can do in your home for filtering your water, whether it's a point of use entry and coming into all of your water, whether it's a countertop system for treating your water, whether it's the showers, as Bob is talking about, to be able to treat your shower and bath water, and other ideas around water. So we will do that if you ask us questions and share that with you. Another question in from Mark Walsh, please share.
Just maybe before Mark, just to reflect on, one thing that come to mind when we said it, point of use filtration. Point of use filtration doesn't solve the problem; it just moves the problem to a different location. And when we talk about, equality, eventually, people that will have money will get better treatment at the point of use. And I think that's a direction that I prefer not to go to.
Thanks, Kobe.
So I live in Washington, D.C., and we now have an administration that seems to respect science a little more than the prior. Are you guys seeing any signs of progress as far as sort of a national perspective that any of the appointees by our new administration have represented, or do you think there's any points of pressure that I and other DC folks that have some ins, or anybody in this call can potentially push to move ahead the specifics of some of the challenges you face us with today?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question.
Yes and no. So all the issues that we have didn't start yesterday. I mean, we've just been dealing with this for decades. And one thing that Bob and I talk about all the time is we got to stop kicking the can down the line. That's why we're in so much trouble here. And we've got trouble with, aging infrastructure and antiquated policies and laws. All of that has to be looked at. I think the conversation is being had, which is a good start. A conversation is being had about our infrastructures. I think we all need to be realistic. It won't be a quick fix or overnight, but at least the conversation is being started. This PFAS is going to be a huge issue. It already is. I don't know that studying what we've already studied to conclude in 10 years we need to study more is necessarily going to be the answer. It's just moving a lot of money around when we've got solutions that we've got to start implementing. I think that in the DC area, you have huge lead issues. So we have to start concentrating on how we're treating the water. And then if you're treating it poorly and adding chloramines, you're going to further deteriorate an already aging infrastructure. You're going to get more and more flints happening. And you've got a big problem like that. I would like to see things implemented, even for me, and Bob could disagree, at a national level. What is one thing that we could do different that would reduce the infrastructure's, aging process and help it out and reduce lead contamination and Legionnaire outbreaks? Don't add ammonia to the system anymore. So I think that there's some very targeted things that we can do that are solution driven. And the conversation has started. I don't know that I'm seeing the solid action being taken yet.
Yeah, Mark, real quick to follow up where Erin's going here is two goals. And regardless of administration, I mean, Erin and I've gone Republican, Democrat, Republican. We went through, Bush 1, Clinton, I will tell you the Obama administration at the US EPA did absolutely nothing for 8 years because he was terrified he'd make a mistake. So he just didn't do anything. if we could accomplish two things in the short time that we have this current administration, regardless of where it goes, break down the regulatory silos and homogenize everything, knock this nonsense off of everything like this, because that's what's causing the breakdown, closing the gap on the waste cycle, the unintended consequences of complying with this silo causes problems in this silo, results in problems in this silo. That's where the breakdown is. That's in regulation, break down the silos, just in water. And then the other two, what Erin was saying here is, if you spend $1 on infrastructure, show me $1 in a pipe, a tank, a treatment plant. The problem with the federal government is they pay consultants. If there's a $10 million project, we spend $9,999,000 studying the problem, and then there's $1 left for the project. We already have the science. We already have the technology. Everyone in this room knows how to put pipe in the ground, knows how to put up a tank, knows, let's spend money on things we can see and touch and feel, not on these nonsense telephone book publications.
Well, also, I would argue just one last thing I'll toss in, and I apologize, Erin. DC is, as much as it is often about action and about regulation and legislation. And what upsets me, and I think we can all make some progress here, is that the Biden infrastructure plan of $1.7 or $2.7 trillion is then attacked by the other side. There's not enough for bridges. And I'm like, why do we stop at bridges and roads? The definition of infrastructure seems to be so limited by a lot of these conversations. And I think, to your point, Bob and Erin, infrastructure should not be on the surface, i.e. bridges and roads. It should be underneath and above. And I just hope increase the label of what infrastructure means to include water.
Correct.
Very much so. And like I said, I just did an interview on Meet the Press about this. Look, the conversation has started, but what we have to do is push through and follow through on that and look at what infrastructure really means. And it's our water system. It's our gas lines. I mean, we've got failing infrastructure, and we've seen it play out all through the state of California. We've seen it play out with a big oil tank farm leak here. These are all antiquated 200-year-old pipes that we are going to have to deal with. We can't kick that can down the line. And just because, see, oftentimes we don't see it, we don't think it's there. These are where some of our biggest problems are. The conversation is had, but will really be up to us in having conversations like this and our leaders in pushing it through. We are at that place where we have to begin to implement the solutions and the science that we do have. This has been our problem, the kicking the can down the line. We got to deal with it on the upfront, these issues first, because down the line, believe me, you're going to save the environment, you're going to have a healthier population, and as a company, you're still going to make a profit. But how I think the whole system has been ass backwards. I really do, even at the EPA level. These chemicals coming in, you're going to study them on the upfront. You're not going to put them in the system, and we're going to find out 25 years later, oh, Houston, we have a problem. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. The conversation is here, but we're going to have to begin implementing a solution. No more chatter. But we've got to be realistic that this won't happen tomorrow. It just can't be. We need to start. But we're not going to have it all solved by tomorrow. But I have been somewhat encouraged that at least the conversation is before us.
We've got another question from Rachel.
I've never had a longer moment of silence on Zoom than that one. Was it something I said? It usually is.
It was crickets.
Oh, there's Rachel.
So I don't know. I'm like, am I the Rachel? So, because I didn't raise my hand, that's why I was taking a little bit of time. So, but I'm wondering, so just following on this same thing, I look at my county. I live in Jefferson County in Washington State, outside of Seattle. And we, to my knowledge, we don't have a massive water quality problem yet, but I see our county executives and state representatives and whatnot, basically pulling together ideas just in anticipation for infrastructure, right? So with earmarks being allowed now, you just, so you can see this momentum building around getting infrastructure projects shovel ready. And a lot of the approaches that I'm seeing are, they're not Green New Deal kind of things. It's really like, oh, we've had this infrastructure, we've been doing planning because we've never had any money to actually do anything other than planning at a local level for 20 years. Here's this project, we're going to put it into the hopper to get funding. And so, you don't have that sort of cutting edge green building, circular economy, like climate neutral thinking. And yet we have this prospect for a massive infrastructure bill coming from DC. And so I'm just wondering, how do we square that? Or how do you think we should square that when it comes to water infrastructure investing? Given that, yeah, agreed, like the science is there, right? We've done a ton of studies, but the solutions are also fairly bespoke based on where you are. And with water being managed locally, I'm just wondering how you're thinking about that. Because it would be nice, I would love to be able to go back to my local officials and put a little heat under there, just to be more vocal and to be able to inform and advocate.
Oh, well, Bob, you can start, but both of us are going to have a lot to say about that. And I talk a lot about that. Like I said earlier, there's a big federal oversight that we think is going to affect everything. I see the biggest changes, I think Bob will tell you, at a very micro level, starting with a community and getting to their city councils organized that can turn on a light bulb and make a change. Just think about that. If every city council, every community, and every city council throughout the America did that, we'd light it up across the board. We'd actually get those changes made. And so people think that it has to start at this big level. It can start at a very singular level, like you just said. It comes to mind, and Bob will jump in here, a story that y'all wouldn't know. We had a big contamination in Carson, California, carousel tract, and nothing was getting done. Gosh, we couldn't even get a cleanup order started. It was ridiculous. It was a huge lawsuit. So Bob worked with the community closely, and he decided one night at city council, he'd bus in the community. How many were there, Bob?
Oh gosh, 800.
Yeah. So city council chambers, we all sat through there. We had a conversation. Nobody really seemed to want to kind of talk around what was going on with this carousel. So it was a tank farm shell that had just daylighted into this entire community, and benzene and crude and everything was literally bubbling up in the backyard. Kids couldn't go out. People had cancer. They were locked and trapped inside. So nobody was really addressing this issue. We had this big state stuff. We had a big lawsuit, but what was going on at that city council level right there in that backyard? So Bob bussed them all in. And as the chamber was ready to close out for the night, they said, is anybody else here? And we said, yeah, there's a few people on the carousel track. So we opened the doors, and all 800 of them just filed in, and filed in. And every one of the children had an opportunity to speak. And what they brought in with them were these little stuffed guinea pigs. And they said, we don't want to be your guinea pig anymore. And they shared their story of how their grandfather died, or what it's like not to be able to go outside as a child, or how the benzene smells, or how they could taste it on their tongue, or how they felt dizzy, or how they were afraid to go outside. And they put a note and safety pinned it to a little guinea pig. By the time this group was done and these children were heard, and this city council heard them, there was a pile 4 feet deep in the middle of the chambers. I was struck that the city council was struck and had no idea what was really going on in their own backyard and how effective that moment was. There was cleanup orders at 8 a.m. in the morning. That was effective. If every one of us at a microscopic level could do that, we could start to affect change on our municipal levels at a very local level.
I'll fire off a slightly different answer to Rachel's question here about the fact that earmarks are here. I love earmarks because I get money for my projects. I hate earmarks because I guarantee Liz Cheney's not going to get any. And so that impacts her congressional district. You know, it's one of those kinds of things where it's a popularity contest, you know, and I get a bunch of popular people and I get my earmarks through, which is why it's a game. Back to the, you know, the question posed by Mark earlier, what can we do in the EPA and with earmarks and with infrastructure, break down those compliance structures and then literally put bounties on contaminants. How many pounds of PFAS does this project remove from the environment forever? And put bounties per pound of chemical contaminants on each of the chemicals, and then let Congress go after the chemical manufacturer that put those in the environment in the first place on a per pound basis. And then there's that exchange of money for that. And it applies to water, but back to, you know, green economies and things like that, you know, carbon sequestration, it's per pound. You know, let's put that incentive of monetary transactions into this process, not cap and trade, not a gaming system, but real effect. You know, I gave you $1, show me $1 worth of pipe. I gave you $1, show me $1 worth of PFAS moved from the environment. And those things need to be correlated, and a lot's going to happen.
And Bob, but go back to that local level. Tell them about the work that you're doing down in Corpus Christi, Texas, where it started with the community, Tyler, Texas, where it started with the municipality, where it started working with that local council. And now you're pinpointed that area right down on the ground. You're actually going to affect that change. That's exactly the same thing that happened in Hannibal, Missouri. They had lead levels in their distribution system higher than Flint in some places. Bob and I got involved. We kicked off that one mom. They kicked off the community. Knowledge is power. They went door to door. They let everyone know we have lead in our water because of all this ammonia use. One of them decided to run for city council. She won. She did a referendum and put it out to vote. Do you want ammonia in your water? Yes or no? The community was now educated. They voted no. She got a law. They're not using ammonia anymore. They don't have any lead. Imagine how many lead issues we could start dealing with, or infrastructures at that very local level we could begin to implement. And Bob does this all day long, and your work in Corpus Christi has been amazing. And it operates just that way. And at that point, you know, Bob will get involved, or city council can get involved in the monies that they do have, where funds have been misappropriated, where they're going to get funding and how they can actually make that happen. And we just can't sit and wait. Neither can these city councils or these municipalities. And so it will take that action right at that local level. And I can see it. I can see it just like on my map that I'm building of everybody that's reporting all of their problems regarding water. I can't see the United States of America anymore. But what I can also see is where it starts to light up, where communities active, city council, local ordinances, local municipalities making those changes. And then it starts to take off. So Bob, you should tell them what you do in Corpus Christi.
It's basically grassroots organization, but I heard somebody on here at the beginning with the introductions with RO. It's a 50 million gallon RO plant that the community is actually going to get behind and support. So when you can get NGOs behind a project like that, because of the grassroots effort, you can really make a change and really make a difference. Getting the congressional delegation from California to actually sit down with the congressional delegation from Texas and Florida in order to pool money through the Army Corps of Engineers. I mean, I will tell you right now, the congressman from California and the congressman from Texas don't even speak the same language right now, but I can get them together on things like that. So, and get California to fund a desal plant in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Well, Bob, share with us some of the communities you're going to. One recently that these municipalities are calling you because they're going to have no water.
Well, we could. I could rattle off 100 cities' names right now. I mean, it's that incredible. And so, but they all come through Erin, and they all come to Erin, and the two of us work together to affect that. The biggest problem, I would, to frame a theme for you here, the biggest problem is to get community leaders, city councilmen, mayors, staff, city managers, the utility director. 98% of them are in denial that they have a problem. If you can get that percentage to increase beyond 2%, some cities will come to us and say, we are terrified of Erin. but we're willing to talk to you to see if we can come to a resolution of this problem. And once
They'll talk to you, they won't talk to me.
eventually we get Erin in the room, but bottom line is in reality, I mean, the biggest hurdle we have is to get the egos out of the room and to get people to admit that they have a problem. When that occurs, we literally advance the ball 5 years on a process. You know, when they finally say, yes, we have a problem, we appreciate your help, boom, the ball gets moved 5 years from the traditional process. It's that scary and that simple.
We are focused on solutions to the water challenges we have, and innovation is one of the key areas of solutions. And I'd love for Udi or Oded from Israel to weigh in about some of the solutions that Israel has created, where they are really the leading nation on the planet to be treating water, to be creating desalination, to be doing gray water recycling and reuse, and are the most efficient users of water on the planet. Udi, Oded, can you just share some insights from Israel and what you all have done that's been so effective and making you guys so efficient with your water use?
I can start maybe off, Oded, you will complete, but I think the basic thing that's happening in Israel is that people appreciate water at the home level and at the national level in a total different way, because we are a desert country. So from the outstart, Israel is a place where there's not enough water. So you appreciate water much more. It's also willing to pay the economical value of water, because I think one thing that is I see missing in the US is the real economical value of water. Do you really pay for what your water really costs? Up till maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, water was, you know, so abundant and so clean, you wouldn't think about it twice. The same as you don't think about the air you're breathing. Why would you pay for air or for clean air? But once water is becoming scarce and polluted, yes, you need to treat it. You need to take care. Somebody needs to take care. Technology is there, but it's costing money. And people need to understand that both on the personal level and on the national level, and to start understanding that you have to weigh in your health and your economic values and so on. So in Israel, it wasn't an issue because from the outstart, we had this problem. So we had to take it on headways, 70 years ago. That's why the whole system is nationalized. You cannot own water in Israel. It's all managed on a country level. You cannot even save rainwater because the rainwater is counted for getting into the ground to the aquifers to be taken out. So everything is managed on a very, very large scale. And people appreciate water, and they pay the economical price of water, including both the treatment of the water, the reuse of the water, because 85% of the wastewater in Israel is reused, mostly for agriculture. So you're paying for this, but also that from the other hand, you are getting good enough water to drink from your tap. And Oded, you can complete me.
Thank you.
Thanks. So first, I want to congratulate you, Erin and Bob, for this amazing conversation and for this extremely knowledgeable discussion. I fully agree with what Udi said about the different structure in Israel. Obviously, it has to do with size, which is totally different than the US case. Nevertheless, I'm as a consumer of water and somebody that drinks water every day, it's quite scary now to think about what we have here as well. I'm not sure that our water is that great. Something that I take from this conversation very deeply is the fact that you work with the public, with the people, with the consumers, and you give the community the ability to change things. And I'm a big fan of ecosystem concepts and the ability to change things when you work in a large scale with the public. Because the idea of doing things top down, and Bob, you mentioned the fact that the EPA was, everybody is so scared to touch anything because of the huge responsibility. So I think this is the case in many places when public servants and definitely politicians are too scared to do anything, so they stick to business as usual, and we know it simply cannot work anymore. So probably motivating and mobilizing the public is a very smart way to make things better. So congratulations.
Thanks, Oded. Bob and Erin, could you guys talk about desal and what you think the future is for that in America?
Oh, Bob's all over that one. That's to you, Bob.
Ocean desal is going to be limited, at least for the next 20 years. But I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of desal at brackish water inlet sites, as well as advanced wastewater treatment. So tertiary treated wastewater is going to go through a reverse osmosis process for reuse applications, for groundwater recharge and things like that. We've actually been doing it in the United States inland. Orange County Water District is sort of the poster child for Factory 21, for that are aware of that project. They've been doing it for almost 40 years now, where they advanced treat, reverse osmosis their wastewater for recharge of the Santa Ana River that basically percolates into the Orange County aquifer. That is going to be taking place around the country. You're going to see a lot of brackish water inland waterways that have either become contaminated because of human activity or just natural salting of the aquifer. So that's where I see RO going in the United States.
Yeah, I'd just like to back that up. I'm a hydrochemist. I work here in California, but elsewhere. And I'm seeing now, I work a lot with groundwater, and we're now seeing municipalities, cities, water districts who had abandoned wells because the water quality was just too low, usually high salts, high TDS, that are coming back in looking very favorably at those wells now, because the cost of doing desal in that water is so much less than doing seawater desal.
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, I can add to that here in Israel, we've gone into seawater desal. Today, about 60% of the water in Israel is desalinated, but that's only after about 40, 50 years that the state, on a state level, did reuse first, and brackish water desalination and treatment of well water, and all other possible cheaper measures and more environmentally sustainable measures before the country went into seawater desal. Today, since the year 2000, we started seawater desalination. Today, it's a big thing, but again, most of the water is reused, and most of the brackish water is also desalinated, and that happened years before that.
Thanks, Udi. Dave Perky, you had a question. Are you still there, Dave? Oh, maybe not. Maybe we lost Dave. I know. Let's see, who else? Ryan, you had a question you want to ask Bob or Erin?
Oh, I'm happy to defer to the group. I was kind of curious to know, how are the people of Hinckley doing now? Erin.
So in Hinckley, California, I'm glad you asked. I was just up there. 2020 ABC is going to be doing a special on it. It's gone. So Hinckley was a small town, and everybody loved being up there. They had all their land and freedom and horseback riding and raised their kids and had their well water. They had post office and schools and church. All of that's gone now. So what had happened after the case settled and the film came out in 2000, PG&E was using a lot of the farms to draw the Chrome 6 back, and they were aerating it out. And when the state came out there after the film was released, they realized that the Chrome 6 was now airborne. So they shut PG&E's cleanup operation down, which caused the plume to break through. So when we started in Hinckley, because of how all the dairies and the farms were situated, it was actually controlling the plume boundaries and where it would go and where it couldn't go. And when the case settled and those people moved, and then PG&E began to use those locations for remediations to pull the Chrome 6 back, it was getting into the air. So when it shut down, it broke through, and we now had a bigger plume. One of the people involved in the beginning, Roberta Walker, called me, it was about 2008, and said, I'm worried because PG&E is at my new house, and she's now 5 miles away, and they've said the Chrome 6 is here. So she got hit twice, and that started another round of litigation, but PG&E got ahead of that and started going door to door and buying the people's property. They're looking at a 100-year cleanup. And in that process, they've just had to get everybody out of the way. So they've lost the whole town. Everyone's gone. Everybody's moved. Many people have died. And it feels so senseless looking back on it. I talked to Roberta, and, was justice served? To some degree, accountability was taken. It's hard to feel that justice was served when a situation should have never happened in the first place. And Bob and I talk about this case all the time. And this is where we can really learn from an antiquated system and trying to kick the can down the line, because it costs billions and billions of dollars to a company. It destroyed an environment and it took lives. And had we done that a different way on the upfront, we wouldn't be in this place. And so it didn't have a happy outcome just from the fact that people did die. There's been 54 deaths of the original plaintiffs from cancer. This was their home, and it's gone. And it's wiped out, and it's very eerie there. It's very apocalyptic there. And some have gone on and others have not. But what hurt them the most was this was their home, and everything was taken away. And when we say everything, when you destroyed the water and their land, you destroyed their health. You took it all.
Gina, you have a question you want to ask Erin and Bob?
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering if you are aware of the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack on fourth phase of water, often called exclusion zone water, which helps with contamination issues. I'm just curious about how where that work fits in this conversation, and if you've heard of it or aware of it.
I have not.
Yeah, I was looking to Bob. Bob may have, but I have not.
Yeah, and when you're talking about exclusion zone, are you talking about like buffer zones around contaminated sites that people no production type zones?
Not at all. I'm talking about the structure of water molecules themselves and how they create their own ability to clean up contaminants within the water's solvent ability. We could call it that way. It's a important part of this conversation, and I'm excited to introduce that work to you in a way that's not overwhelming. We'll just start the conversation around it. But certainly Gerald Pollack could be here, should be here. I can call him up and say, Jerry, get on the line here.
I'd be really excited to look at that. One of the things, the evolution of my career,
yes.
As the main San Gabriel Basin Water Master and the Los Angeles Superior Court work that I did, we had the largest Superfund site groundwater cleanup project in the United States history of EPA. And so I became kind of this revolving door of reviewing innovative new water treatment technologies.
Yeah.
Because of that, that's taken me, pretty much around the country. So I've seen every advanced oxidation process known to man, whether UV, peroxide, all ozones, all the different things that are out there, all the new ionization technologies through static electricity created in graphite chambers. I mean, I see it all. I'm currently on the ASHRAE 514 committee, which is all the microbiology stuff inside premises plumbing systems. So I kind of see everything, and I get excited when I get an opportunity to review things. Just since I was introduced by Stuart to that 374, I already called it up. I know exactly what they're doing, and I'm going to tear into it and tear it apart and find out how we make it better. I don't even know whose that is, but I'm
well, it's awesome to have an opportunity to have someone like you vet something like this. And we are meeting as a group. So it's 200 water scientists are meeting in Baden-Baden in October. These are Russians, Koreans, Italians, looking at this particular phase of water. And I'd be happy to both invite you to that conference, but also to flow that information back to you in case you're not able to go. But I think it has a lot of legs to help us at all sorts of different points. So I'm glad to be your point person on that.
Perfect.
I'm delighted to meet you guys. Oh my God. How delightful.
Good to meet you.
Let's fricking go do something. And also so I'm head of the Hydration Foundation, and we are doing a public a campaign right now on Instagram introducing new water science and even old water science. Like that's how I knew Da Vinci was a water master.
I love that. I saw that on there. I didn't know that.
Right.
Did you know that, Bob?
I did not. I haven't heard that.
Great information like that. You drop it in an Instagram and you have people's interest. And I think that we could use these social media models to begin to ask people, what do you know about your water? Just that simple, so straightforward.
And it's really simple science. Erin and I were talking the other day with somebody. I mean, remember the old cartoons that they used to do about, legislation? I am a bill, I'm only a bill. I'd love to do a few of those on water, because it's actually that simple. Educate the kids and the parents will come along.
And we have graphic designers to do that, and love to share what we're doing at the Hydration Foundation for public education. So great. Okay, we'll be in touch. That's great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Hey,
And
Stuart, I want to ask you something real quick, because this is just feeling this one here. Can we share with everyone Veda and what we did on Saturday?
Sure. Yeah.
Because
yes, Erin, thanks for bringing it up. So Veda Austin does extraordinary work with water, and to be able to show how water receives our messages and everything. Water just receives everything. And so we did a call with Veda and Erin and Bob and I earlier this week, and Erin just spoke. Veda had a petri dish of water. She just let Erin speak for a while. She then took that petri dish, put it in the freezer, and brought it back out and showed what the image was, and it was mind-boggling. Can you bring up?
There's two images.
Yeah, and then we can talk about what Erin was saying and thinking, that the water received it and communicated it and showed it.
From a perspective of with children and what Bob was talking about and water, if we've disconnected from our life source, and because we've lost ourselves. But to really see, and I'm the one sat here, now this was no game because it flipped me out, that water is living and it's hearing these messages, and she's looking at the phase between ice and liquid. Mm-hmm. And it's incredible what it I wouldn't have believed it had I not done it. Are those pictures up yet?
So Didier, let's just show the picture, not the video,
Just the pictures.
the images.
Did Didier get the other one? There's two. Okay, so here's the,
Right, so that's the second one.
so we'll start here. So the picture you're seeing to your left is water from the tap in its form when it came out. So she does all of this under a microscope. So she does water research in New Zealand. She has for 9 years. And this was the tap water, as you can see, frozen straight after being poured into the Petri dish, what it looked like. And then this was on the right hand. And Didier, I don't know if you can slide the one to the right over a little so we can see the middle more.
I can get the full picture if you want.
Let's do the images independently, Didier, if you can, to see them independently.
If I can just interject, Stuart, this is the structured water phase that she is working with based on Dr. Pollack's work. They're great colleagues. She's a great colleague of ours. And so the potential of this phase of water to help us with decontamination is also very profound.
No, I agree with you, and I get so excited. So if you look at this image, I was talking to the water. I love water. I grew up around water. I'm from the Midwest. I was fascinated with every single aspect of it. But why I was talking to the water, and if you look at the image right there in the middle, even Veda went, what is that right here in the middle? If you pull it up a little, I'm like, oh my God. So while I'm talking, I'm thinking of back home and how I loved the wheat fields. So right there, that image is wheat. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And then the other one, if you want to put that one up, really struck me because I talked about us and water and the heart and the love of what it is. And where'd the other picture go?
You pull that one up, Didier?
Yeah, just coming.
The second one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. And you can call me foolish, you can call me silly, but every time I see it, I'm very, very moved. I could tear up because I was saying to it how heartfelt it is and how water hugs us. And look at the image the water came back with. And the wheat fields are still around it.
Incredible.
Yeah. I've always believed this. I do. Water is life. I've always believed water is living. It's a source. Water is moody like us. It can be still. It can be calm. It can be tumultuous. Everything about it. And are we really missing something? And that picture on the right also gave me hope that the water has the abilities to heal. But I think we're going to have to help it. And that's what's been missing. So I just thought there was a good opportunity. We're having this conversation, and what a great way to educate and share it, even children, as Bob and I have talked. It's amazing.
Well, water receives our messages. And so we need to put into water, when we're drinking our water, we need to put the message of love, of generosity, of health, and all the positive things we want in our life, and water will receive that. Mark, I want to go to you and the question you have for Erin and Bob.
Yes, hi, Erin, Bob, and everybody on this call. It's really compelling, and thank you for the information and all you're doing. One of the things that I've been looking at is that technologies such as RO, chlorinating water, things like that, are such old technologies. What kind of new technologies that are more energy efficient are available, and how are we using potentially the wisdom of nature and biomimicry to handle some of these solutions more effectively and more naturally, such as the living machine for wastewater? And I guess the other thing that I'm looking at is we tend to do things in a very centralized way. And rather than chlorinating and treating massive amounts of water, how can we treat the water more at the local level? In other words, at the home, at the business, and do that more effectively than trying to treat, all the water with such things as chlorine.
I think we're coming to that change, right? Right, it's right here. That the process has begun.
It's funny because science has gone full circle, and there is actually a tremendous amount of study of simplification of water treatment, which has led to the improvement in energy usage at reverse osmosis. I mean, everybody looks at reverse osmosis as like this big bad ugly. It's only in the Israeli Saudi Arabia area because they have tons of oil around and they can spend all the energy they want making water. But I will tell you, one of the areas where it's showing the most promise on PFAS, they're using rice husks for adsorptive technology.
Oh my God.
There are ways you can clean water using these natural. It's actually at Imperial College in London. I actually visited it last June, not 2020, but 2019 in June. I was at Imperial College looking at that treatment technology. The carbon adsorption, there's really only 3 contaminants in drinking water: organic, inorganic, and microbiology. That's it. Okay. And most of your organics like to adsorb and be removed from the environment. So let's use natural adsorptive technologies. The inorganics, your iron, your lead, your manganese, you're basically what you would think of salts and metals, and the inorganic chemistry. They like to engage in mass balance, so they exchange. So they're basically, if one comes on, one goes off, with the exception of reverse osmosis, which just rips them all out and concentrates them. And so then there's got to be, there's going to be mechanical separation techniques that are going to involve energy. And it's how we get creative about that energy, how we make it more efficient, how do we make it more green and head in those, I will tell you the cost of reverse osmosis has been coming down and conventional water treatment going up, to where now it's starting to actually make sense, where somebody was saying earlier about the, taking well fields and putting them back online and using RO. Water treatment operators are now waste managers. What do we do with our waste streams? And this is where we can get very, is it rice husks?
Maybe it's the wheat that was in the water that just came at me. It's the wheat.
There are ways to get there. So you're spot on.
Well, as you bring that up, Bob, our second company, which we haven't announced yet, that we've just invested in, is a company called Glanris, based in Tennessee. And they have a technology that takes rice hulls and burns those rice hulls to make granulated activated carbon. It's the most efficient, green, sustainable, and pure way to treat wastewater. That's incredibly effective. So you'll be hearing more about Glanris and about what they're doing. I'm very excited about this company and the investment and the impact they're having.
I think we need to look into the wheat.
Yeah.
Wheat will do it. Wheat will do it. Papaya seeds will do it. There's a million.
That was the message. There it was.
I'm an anthropologist. I've been collecting indigenous traditions for reorganizing the water molecules, and it's extraordinary. And whether we're using it now in water treatment or whether we're using it in agriculture to absorb glyphosate and other contaminants from the soils, we have such a solution available to us that we can activate. That water is the ultimate sophisticated, innovative technology. We just didn't know we could switch the molecules around and get them to do this work.
Well, we sometimes make things complicated and they don't need to be. And we're talking about getting back to there, which makes me also think, Bob, you need to get back to bases and get those rollerblades back on and start going from your little municipality to municipality.
I hear dolphin shorts are back in style.
They are.
William, you have a question for Erin and Bob?
Yes. First of all, a wonderful thank you to WIA for organizing this really extraordinary gathering. And of course, to you, Erin and Bob, for so many reasons that we all know. I'm part of a group that's organizing a new college just off the shores of Clear Lake, California, which is the largest freshwater lake within the state. And also one of the world's oldest freshwater lakes, in a county that has 7 Native American tribes, with some of the oldest known Native American artifacts in North America, and some of the most interesting hydrology in the country. And the college itself is designed to bring together sacred and secular sciences and humanities and altogether culture to work with the county government and the population here to bring about a comprehensive regenerative repatterning of the county, to be an example to the rest of the state. We have interest from leading state figures, and right now we're involved in a process of developing a water lab, as it turns out, with which we also want to have associated, if you know Beverly Rubik's work, also a biofield lab. And I'm kind of following up a little bit on Gina's kind of confession here. I feel like, I think we know from what you just showed us, Erin, your ice, which I suggest you don't sell on eBay because you'll probably won't be able to deliver. But I think that water is an incredibly profound mean for human culture and human consciousness. We all may remember Stanislav Lem's book and then movie out of it, Solaris. But it's a metaphor for consciousness, and it goes to every aspect of our health and well-being and our survival. So I'm very interested in it. This is our college and this county as a gathering place for these kinds of considerations, from the most practical, legal, ethical, and use of currently known technologies, but also research into over-the-horizon technologies, both traditional, indigenous, or unknown and being discovered. So I just want you to know that we're the place, we're forming it called the California College of Regenerative Design, where we intend to hold international group of young global leaders in going out into their own homes and countries to bring about this network process. And so what I'm kind of looking for here is the gravity through maybe WIA, maybe through other organizations, of networking of this conversation at multiple levels to, I think, quickly move it to the forefront, because it has so many valences that are profound for transformation, starting with the basic one of health, but moving just about every direction. So I just wanted to mention that to you, and also appeal for a gathering point for these over the horizon, not only technologies, but political actions, political activism, all the rest of it, that bring water, all the elements of water together.
I like it. That's great. I know Clear Lake. I have family up there.
Where?
So, my son just moved up there. He's from Oregon, so he goes back and forth. He's right on the lake because he just moved there. So I'll tell you where he is, and I have to look it up though. He just moved there, so he's right on the lake.
All right, I'll send you my contact information, Erin.
Yeah, do. It's not you. It's, you know where Mendocino is. He just moved there. I can tell you exactly where it is. I just don't have all the layouts. So I have family in Clear Lake. I've had an ex-sister-in-law that's lived up there forever. I've actually had many people from the area call me during different times. The lake has had some problems, so people have reached out to me about that. So I'm familiar with Clear Lake, and now I definitely have a son up there. He loves it.
Good. Oh, it's an opportunity. This is a real opportunity to create it as the center of a demonstration bioregion. As you may know, we've also lost over 60% of our forests to wildfires.
Yes.
And the connection between water and forests, of course, is profound. So altogether,
I'd love to help network or anything. Bob will show up in his rollerblades. He'll take a tour around the lake. I'm not going to let you forget that, Bob.
bring your kayak, Bob. Yes.
So Kobe, you have a question or comment for?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for this, great conversation. It's always, be part of a group that think the same and want to move things around. And I want to talk about the speed of water, because, for me, when I moved from a startup in California and to do a startup in water, everybody told me water takes more time than anything out there. So how can we, and I'm a big believer of, innovation, technology, and education. How can we speed things up? Because this is obviously affecting each and every one of us and our kids and the next generation. So Erin or Bob, from your experience, what was really effective about moving things faster?
I'll share with you a brief story and then the answer to your question. There was a professor from the University of Indiana that came to the Western United States, predominantly California, and he said, he wrote a book of, you know, how the waters were adjudicated and how everything was, you know, unfolding. And he wrote that in the mid 80s. And the original title of his PhD thesis, what ultimately became a book, it's called Dividing the Waters, is the book now. But the original title, and the panel would not allow him to call it that, was Why They Prefer Chaos. And the reason that the title of the book was Why They Prefer Chaos is because if they have a chaotic system that has all these overlapping jurisdictions, you can't figure it out. And it gave them protection. Okay, and it gave them protection from regulation and water quality and water rights ownership. You know, Udi was basically saying in Israel, it's all owned by the government. You can't own it. Water's not a commodity that could be traded and things like that. So it was this Why They Prefer Chaos system. J.G. Boswell, I mean, for people that know the history of California, there's some big money involved in the whole thing. And so what you need to understand is the paradigm shift that's taking place right now. Okay, speeding things up, startup in water. I don't even know what you're doing, but I will share this with you. What's happening because of the smart home? You have a thermostat you can turn up on your iPhone. You can turn your hot water heater up and down on your iPhone. Everybody has cameras in their house now that you can watch from your iPhone. Okay, what's happening is A.O. Smith, the water heater manufacturer, Moan, the plumbing manufacturer, they're making toilets with sensors in them that censor ORP, LSI, oxidation reduction potential, saturation index. They're actually measuring these in toilet tanks, guys. And what's happening is they're having faucets that say the water quality is at a level that might leach lead. Okay, and these sensors are showing up everywhere in the marketplace. Okay, now guess what? All those guys behind those iron gates that were in this protective zone are in deep shit because the consumer now has all these data points and they're going, oh no, all these data points are out there. They know when there's a microcystin algae bloom in the lake that's the source that's going to the treatment plant, that now I got to fill my cooling tower. Do I do a blowdown? Oh no, what's going on? And that paradigm shift's happening right now. Google data in water and find out about these guys that are doing, you know, there's a sensor for everything now. Temperature, chlorine residual, all these different things. And so now the consumer's got this information and he's armed with information that's contrary to what those people behind the iron gates have. Well, guess what?
Citizen science is what we call it. It's here.
What's going to happen?
Yes.
It's going to speed everybody up to cover their ass. And that will benefit where you're at. So if you take that mindset and spin that to whatever you're doing, because I don't know what you're doing, that will help you be on the cutting edge of this as it evolves.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the power of data and
right now it's
knowledge.
It's power, but nobody knows what to do with it. As it becomes harnessed and you just stay ahead of it, that will help you in your endeavor.
Once again, brings up innovation as the critical part of what the solution that's going to be coming forward for us to become one, educated, knowledgeable, and then be able to take action to improve the quality of our water and talk to our leaders that are responsible for bringing us clean water. And I think it's really, Erin, Bob, you've said is that they're completely looking away from it and they're shirking the responsibility of how the water is impacting our health and well-being in such a deep way.
Right.
The water gave us the message. You saw it. Take it to heart.
Yes. Yes.
It's the answer.
Yes. Love our water, respect and honor our water. So is there any other questions for Bob or Erin?
Yeah, I was really, I'm just going to make a statement. I really enjoyed being here today and getting to meet everybody and to really just see, you know, all the aspects of science and citizens and water and the future and innovation, all of it melding together. And I'm very excited about it. I do think I really feel a huge reset, a reboot, a rebirth. I am more hopeful in this moment than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. The conversation is here. We're here. We're waking up to that. And, you know, I think we're going to find that and strike that right solution path, collaboration, cooperation, transparency in moving us forward for sustainability for every single one of us on this planet. It's all of our homes, and it's going to take all of us together. So I really enjoyed today. And I love the science. I'm fascinated by it, and how every aspect of what we talked about coming together is what needs to happen to push this the way we need to go. So I enjoyed it. I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Erin. Well,
well said, Erin. Well said.
Amen.
I love how you're ending on such a positive note, because we started with such concerns, and we want to leave people knowing that there is hope. There is every reason to be optimistic. And because of our ability to use technology in ways to improve our understanding of the water and then the improvement of the water, we can bring water back to its natural state that is healthy, that is life-giving, and that's energetic. So deeply grateful for all of us to be here together and build this community. We'll continue to do our events every month, and looking forward to our next month's event. If there are people that you feel that are part of this, that should be part of the WEA community, please reach out to us and let us know, and we'd love to include them. And we're going to be telling you more about the innovative technologies we have, like Covey's 374 Water and Glanris's Rice Hall. We've got a number of other companies we're about to fund that have amazing innovative technologies. And if you see ideas and technologies that you think we should be looking at, please share them with us. And we're also happy to have you be more engaged with our community and to learn more about all the funding we're doing for companies. And if you want to participate in some of the fundings, we also, I had mentioned earlier about our donor advised fund, which we've created, which is a nonprofit for us to be able to support everything from water innovation technologies to the young water leaders. We have a nonprofit group called the Water X Series, which are college students that are beginning to look at water as a career and looking at ways that they can be actively engaged with water and take leadership positions, which is so required. We need to have young people enter the water industry, and we need to have people come from outside the water industry, as you were saying, Kobe, data, analytics, software, AI. We're having more and more people come to the water industry that are not from there, that are going to bring the water into current times for us to be able to bring water forward for all of our health and well-being. So deep gratitude to you all, and gratitude to the water, and looking forward to our next time together.
Very much so. Bob, you have anything to say before you go?
No, great meeting everyone. Exciting.
So you all know, Bob and I go back 20 plus years working together, so.
Thank you both. Amazing work. And as I said earlier, we could spend hours and hours and hours, and we will, together to really understand the challenges we have and the opportunities, and how we can work together to bring the changes forward that's going to bring us a richer, healthier life for all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, the opportunities are abundant. That's exciting.
And we'll have to take more pictures of people's water so you can see the messages that you're giving to your water, like Erin did.
Oh, I'm not letting it go. I'll be back to the wheat. A couple of you can expect phone calls as soon as we're done about the wheat.
Once again, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. It was delightful.
It was. Blessings on all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.